Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're diving into something that's, well, probably sitting in a junk drawer just a few feet away from you right now. It's an object we use without a second thought, treating it almost like a literal extension of our own hands. We use it to cut, to trim, to shape, and to build. We're talking about the evolution of the scissor, a cut through history. And as you'll see, the journey of how we actually arrived at the modern scissor is surprisingly full of unbelievable human ingenuity.
Seriously, I want you to imagine, just for a second, having to tear a piece of thick fabric completely by hand. Think about your daily life. Imagine a world where you couldn't cleanly cut a single piece of paper. Imagine not being able to easily cut your hair or carefully trim your nails. Without this one incredibly simple mechanism, the precision that we completely take for granted today would just vanish. We'd literally be living in a world of jagged edges and torn threads. By removing the scissor from our mental picture of the world, we can suddenly see just how absolutely foundational this tool is to modern civilization. Okay, so our story actually kicks off roughly 3,000 years ago, back when scissors were literally just two sharp stones, or, sometimes pieces of bone. People would grip these sharp, natural edges to painstakingly scrape and saw through animal skins or tough fibers. I want you to hold that image in your mind. Two rough rocks. That is our baseline. That's where we started. And the massive leap from those two primitive rocks to the perfectly balanced, incredibly precise steel shears you use today is exactly what we're going to unpack. So, let's track this incredible evolution. Section 1, History's First Cuts, the Origins.
Now, those early stones and bones definitely solved a basic survival problem, right? They allowed early humans to divide materials, but they severely lacked anything even resembling modern precision or ease of use. It was purely about brute force utility. We start 3,000 years ago with those sharp stones, but then we see the first major technological leap, around 1500 BC in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians actually created the first true scissors, which were essentially one-piece tongs. Picture a piece of bronze shaped kind of like a U, where you had to squeeze the two blades together at the open end and the metal would just spring back open on its own. It functioned a lot more like a large pair of tweezers with sharp edges. Then, moving into the Roman era, we see the invention of spring scissors. The Romans refined the whole design, connecting two distinct blades with a specialized piece of metal that acted as a dedicated spring. It was a really brilliant piece of early engineering, but still, at this point, the scissor was purely a utilitarian tool for basic cutting, not yet an instrument of extreme precision. And that brings us to a huge cultural shift. Section 2, Scissors, Symbol of Art, the Middle Ages. During the Middle Ages, the scissor underwent a massive transformation. It stopped being just a crude survival or basic agricultural tool, and it was elevated into this highly esteemed symbol of absolute precision, top-tier craftsmanship, and even wealth. Scissors became the essential, definitive tool for some very specific professions: tailors crafting fine garments, barbers styling hair, and doctors performing medical procedures. Because these professionals relied so heavily on this tool, the tool itself became a massive status symbol. They weren't just making these out of basic iron anymore. For the nobility, scissors were crafted with highly decorative gold and silver handles. In places like Iran, master blacksmiths were dedicating immense time and skill to handcrafting these tools, turning them into literal, functional works of art. Tailors used these large, magnificent, customized shears to cut highly expensive fabrics. The scissor was no longer just about cutting, it was entirely about demonstrating art, finesse, and precision. But, history never sits still. Moving into Section 3, Industrial Revolution, Mass Production. The 19th and 20th centuries brought a paradigm shift that completely flipped the script on the artisanal handcrafted scissor industry and changed our relationship with this tool forever. On one hand, we had the medieval tool, handmade, incredibly expensive, and largely reserved for nobles and skilled professionals. But the industrial era changed the game entirely. The invention and integration of stainless steel meant that scissors were suddenly durable, exceptionally sharp, and resistant to rust. But more importantly, industrial machinery allowed for mass production. This completely democratized the scissor. It made them cheap, reliable, and accessible to absolutely everyone. You no longer needed to be a royal tailor or a wealthy noble to own a perfectly calibrated, high-quality cutting tool. It became a basic staple of every single household. Which brings us to the world we live in right now. Section 4, Scissors in the Specialization Age, Modern Context. Mass production didn't just make scissors cheap and ubiquitous, it allowed manufacturers to really experiment and diversify. Because they became so easy to produce, we could start tweaking the design for highly specific use cases. Just look at the incredible variety we rely on today. We have highly refined surgical scissors, specifically engineered for cutting delicate human tissue with microscopic precision. On the total opposite end of the spectrum, we have heavy industrial scissors designed to effortlessly shear through thick sheets of metal and dense plastics. We even have specialized left-handed scissors, finally, and complex ergonomic designs tailored to the exact mechanics of the human hand. And what's truly fascinating to me is that even in an age where we have highly advanced computer-guided laser cutting machines, the simple manual scissor remains absolutely indispensable across thousands of industries. Sometimes you literally just can't beat the tactile feedback and control of two blades in the human hand.
But guess what? The evolution isn't actually over. The modern challenge is all about ergonomics and safety. Designers today are still actively iterating on this 3,000-year-old concept. They're constantly looking for new materials, new pivot mechanisms, and new handle shapes to reduce hand fatigue, prevent repetitive strain injuries, and make the cutting experience as safe and comfortable as possible. We are, quite literally, still perfecting the tool. Let's take a step back for a broader perspective here. Section 5. The silent teacher of history. When we trace this whole journey, from those rough stones scraped against animal hides to the golden shears of medieval tailors, all the way to the specialized stainless steel tools we use today, we aren't just looking at the history of a random tool. We're actually looking at a mirror of human progress itself. This simple mechanical concept empowered humanity to do three really profound things: shaping materials, cutting with precision, and ultimately creating art. The scissor allowed us to take the raw, basic materials of our world, like crude fabrics, animal skins, and unshaped paper, and transform them into the refined, tailored, beautifully constructed works of civilization. It gave us the incredible power of precision. I want to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with this really profound thought. The value of a thing is not in its appearance, but in the cut it makes. We took two pieces of rock, and over millennia, we shaped them into bronze, then iron, then steel, and finally into the highly specialized instruments of today. So the next time you grab a pair of scissors to open a package or snip a loose thread, take a brief moment to actually look at them. Remember that you're holding thousands of years of human struggle, engineering, and artistic triumphs right there in the palm of your hand. It kind of makes you wonder, what other incredibly ancient, world-changing technologies are hiding in plain sight in your junk drawer right now? Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next explainer.